Hello and welcome to part 2 of upgrading my first gen Toyota Tacoma here behind me. In today's video I'm going to be replacing the rear bumper, which is going to be quite a task for a few reasons that I'm going to explain to you shortly. Quick recap from last episode, we did a full walk around of the truck, an explanation of all the pieces that I am considering replacing and upgrading and doing this affordable budget sort of overland rig. But essentially, I'm also using this truck as my daily driver. So that's the purpose of these upgrades, is to be something that stays practical, stays pretty good gas mileage for daily driving, but just gives a few nice upgrades for camping and makes the truck look a lot better. So without further ado, let's get this old rear bumper off. So here is the rear bumper. I've gone ahead and taken the license plate off here, but the reason this is gonna be a bit of a pain to replace and to work with is this. Check out how shoved the bumper is to my right here. That's pretty shoved over, and it's clearly not centered. You can see here, it's part of what caused all the damage around the corners here. Right there and right in here, we can see the big gap here. So this definitely had seen some days with the rear bumper, and I also had the hit and run on this corner here. So that also contributed to shoving it over a while back. Not really going to worry about minor stuff like this in the bed for this upgrade. It is my work truck, and the bed definitely has seen its days. I'll kind of touch it up if it gets worse over time, but we are going to worry about the rear bumper here because it's definitely not in super good shape. So for this, what this means, being this off-centered, is that we're going to have to bend the brackets back. This bumper is clearly shoved over, and as I go under the truck here in a moment, you'll see that the frame and brackets are pretty bent, and so that might be a bit difficult to shift over. So I'll have to come up with a plan there. But the first things first, I'm going to take these license plate lights off and then unhook the wiring for those, and then we will get up under the truck and see how bad this thing really is, and if we can get it off for one, because I'm pretty sure it's pretty rusted down there, and then see what it's gonna involve to bend this all back. So I'll get back with you guys when I unhook the wiring and take these off, which are also currently not working. Looks like there's a little wire back in there. But yeah, the license plate lights are currently broken and not doing anything, so I'll figure out the wiring for this truck when I do the lights. That'll be a separate episode because I'm going to be putting 2 more pod lights in the rear bumper here and a bunch of lights in the front bumper. So I'll mess with the wiring, see if I can get all this working in the future, but for now we're just going to unhook it so we can get this bumper off. All we got to do is just turn the lights counterclockwise and they pop right out, and that might be one of my problems as well. This one doesn't look to be burnt out, but they might be burnt out bulbs, and it might be as simple as that. I guess we'll see when I do the wiring. So I'll go grab the other one out, and then we can take the rear bumper off, which is definitely kind of screwed up. If you look up in here, look at that gapping. It's not even sitting tight up against the frame because it's so bent and shoved over. So I think we're gonna go ahead and just remove all of this, trailer hitch and everything, and then see how we can kind of bend all this back. You can see how severely bent the trailer hitch is. It's kind of sloping in here, but there's going to be a bolt here and here. That just removes the bumper, but we're going to remove everything. So we're going to take this bolt out, which is the trailer hitch. That's how it mounts the bumper. A bolt here and a bolt here, and that'll take the bumper brackets off. And then 2 bolts underneath, or 2 nuts I should say, that will remove our trailer hitch receiver here. So that'll be on both sides. So I'll get that light out and then take all of this stuff off, and we'll see what we're working with here and what we have to bend back. At the very least, this looks very, very bent, so we're gonna have to correct that a bit. So good news is that none of these bolts are seized. I was able to break them loose. They're very tight and they're definitely very rusted, but they should hopefully come out with a bit of grunt work. This bolt right in here with this little plate on it that ties into the hitch receiver also has a nut on the back of it, so I'll just have to hold that as I unscrew this one. And then these are all 19mm, by the way. Breaking these 3 bolts on each side the big ones here that are all 19 millimeters, that should drop our rear bumper along with its mounting brackets here. So I'm hopefully gonna be able to break them loose on both sides, get this dropped, and I'll get back with you guys soon. All right, so I got the bolts I needed out, and I take back what I said earlier. The second bolt in, not the trailer hitch bolt, but the second one does have a nut on the back. As I was spinning and it was just spinning into eternity, so I should have thought to check. That one does have a nut on the back, as well as a big washer that goes on the back side. And then the one that's right in here, closest in, I kept trying to turn that out, and it loosens, but I don't have to take it all the way out. I know it's really hard to see with it being so dark in here, but it's a slotted key here. So that's just there holding it in temporarily. All you gotta do is loosen that back bolt, and then these brackets should just slide right out because it's slotted. So in theory, we should just be able to slide this rear bumper right out now, because it's pretty much just resting on that hitch there. You can see it bobs up and down, so let me give it a go. So it's actually getting hung up on the trailer hitch. There's two little pieces of metal that come down, and those pieces, looks like we have to pick it way up in order to slide it out. But I don't even know if we're clearing them yet. Yeah, we're not clearing them yet. So to take the rear bumper off, we actually do have to take the rest of the trailer hitch off, or the hitch receiver here, which is those two bolts underneath. The bumper is getting hung up on this little piece of metal here. When I move it up and down, that little piece of metal and from the trailer hitch receiver is stopping the bumper from sliding back out, which maybe it's just a safety mechanism. I don't know why that's there. But anyway, we have to remove these two nuts on the bottom, and I believe those were a 19 millimeter as well, which makes it very convenient. Let me just do a quick check. Yep, 19 millimeter fits well on mine. So I'll go ahead and drop the hitch receiver. So these two hitch receiver bolts back in there are very, very, very rusted. I cannot break any of them loose, any of the four, which is not a good sign. So I think I'm gonna have to grab the mallet out and a bunch of leverage, maybe a pipe to fit around the wrench, see if I can get those. I tried to take these plastic covers, they just pop off to see if I can get enough leverage or enough clearance here to lift up on the bumper and pull it out. But unfortunately, I still cannot. So I do have to completely drop that trailer hitch. And that's gonna be a little difficult, because if I could remove this metal piece, I could certainly get a lot more leverage on those bolt heads. Okay, so I figured it out. There's the bumper, and there's the hitch. The hitch is still on, but I'm so dumb, I didn't think of this earlier, that I just had to remove these two bolts, again, 19 millimeters, that went in these two holes holding the brackets onto the bumper. Like I said, I was gonna do that after the whole thing was off, and it was kind of hard to get to them with the trailer hitch in the way, but I did end up getting to them with the socket wrench and taking those two out so that the rear bumper was disconnected from the brackets, and then the brackets could just slide out and drop down. So that ended up working out. So I now have a bit more room to work with to try to break loose these incredibly rusty bolts. But while the back bumper's off, and just go back with the GoPro, maybe you'll be able to see it, maybe you won't, but it's pretty insanely twisted. This whole thing is super off center. The frame rail over here is actually bent and twisted sideways and out. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna bend all this back in. You can see right there how pitched it is there. Really, really twisted. That is not in good shape. So everything else seems to be in good shape. It only seems to be bent from the very back little piece of the frame. The rest all looks to be totally fine. I'll update you guys with a plan, but it is definitely twisted. I'm gonna have to fix that before I mount the new bumper. But at least I'm glad I got this old thing off, and I'm glad that the bolts that held on these brackets were not horribly rusted, because I certainly did not have enough room in there to get leverage on those. So got lucky there. Those are out. The brackets actually look to be in okay condition. It's just this trailer hitch, and because it's so far bent over here, that's preventing the bumper from sitting up tight against the frame. So that's what we need to fix first and foremost. All right, so my dad ended up having this handy massive breaker bar, so I was able to get my socket on it, and we're gonna give this a go. I think it'll work. It's gonna take some real oomph, but let's give it a go. There it goes. All right. So that's all we needed. that looks like at least I got the bottom broken off. And the top now, hopefully, will come off with just the wrench and the socket like I was trying to do before. But that seems to have worked, so that'll be my plan. I'll take this off and then try to put it on some concrete and sledgehammer these ends here and see if I can bend them back into place. I obviously don't care about the sledgehammer hitting the paint because this is already pretty rusty and the paint's already flaking off of these. So I just care about this piece being straight. So I think that'll be the plan. Probably this will get square on the wood.
Ready for another shot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there we go.
That's getting there.
All right.
Just one more.
So maybe pull it back a little bit more. You
Yeah, just a little bit because it'll kind of spring back into place a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that probably did it.
Better.
Or it's more than enough. I can just tap it.
Put it flat on the concrete and check it.
Okay. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, that's way better than it was. It almost looks fine.
That looks good.
Yeah.
Well, that's a start. And then maybe this one, if it was that easy, I can just shove this one down on the wood.
Oh, nice.
Like that.
You could do that, or
That's already good. Hammering it back into place with the help of my dad was actually working out pretty well, so thanks for the hand, Dad. Alright, so we got the trailer hitch receiver bent mostly back into place. I think it looks a lot better, lines up a lot better with the holes on the frame here. So the plan now is to install the rear bumper here. Again, all handmade in Utah. Super nice quality. I'll try to leave a link in the description if I can. It's not a sponsored video, but I definitely think it turned out well. So we're going to put the brackets onto the bumper and then mount the bumper in loosely and then slide the trailer hitch up from the bottom. So that should be the plan, and then you all can see this thing in its full glory. Alright, so here it is, all mounted on the truck. I think that looks absolutely amazing. It is so much nicer than this old piece of crap that was on there before. This was definitely not worth saving. So I'll try to take it to a metal recycle place maybe or something, but yeah, it's in pretty nasty shape, so I'm really happy to have had the new one on there. Everything went on nice and smooth actually. We got everything bent pretty accurately, so it wasn't too hard to line everything up, line all the bolt holes up. The spacing is nice and even, gaps are good, the bumper is finally centered, trailer hitch is centered, everything fits well, so I am super stoked about that. Couple things for the future. I'm hoping to get a license plate that is darker colored, possibly black with white lettering. I think that would look really good for the front and back. Obviously, I'll put the ones I have back on for the meantime, but that's an upgrade I think that could look awesome. My mom was saying she saw somewhere a vehicle with a black license plate and white lettering, and it ended up turning out really nice. So if they're legal, then I'd love to get one at some point. And I still have yet to wire up the license plate lights here, which go into these two holes. And then I'm going to grab 3-inch pod lights, which mount into here and the other side. And those will be installed in the lighting video where I wire everything up. Another thing I want to do too at some point is grab some plastic or rubber grip, probably more toward the plasticky side. You can see here on my dad's minivan, on the back bumper, they've got like a little plastic adhesive stuff, probably just rivets on, or it's an adhesive. Kind of want to get something similar. Possibly a like diamond plate pattern or something, just to go up here, because I do step on here a lot, and I feel like it's a common place to get hit and banged and everything. So being able to put like a little 4-inch strip of that stuff on the top would just make it look really nice, and it would also protect that coating a little bit better on the bumper. But overall, I am incredibly pleased with how it turned out. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'm super pleased with the bumper. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in part 3, where we will be installing the front bumper. Cheers.